So we are going to start with a guide that we developed during the PROF TRAC project. It is called Basis for the Development of National Training Programs. And what are the PROF TRAC pilot objectives? From the Valencia Institute of Building, we have the task to coordinate 7 national training programs that were developed and have been developed in Denmark, the Netherlands, Spain, Italy, Czech Republic, Croatia, and Slovenia during the project. And we had to ensure that the national programs are consistent with the project strategy. The target groups, maybe my partners have already said, are engineers, architects, and managers, and the training have taken place in both forms, face-to-face and webinars. In face-to-face, we will see some examples of the courses that have already been developed. They use lectures, case studies, and so on. We will see it a little bit later. These are the partners that have been developed the training courses in the consortium of the project. And what are the tasks of the training providers? They have to develop and implement the training programs, and this is what you will do later. And they have to provide us with the content, at least the index in English. And they had the obligation to include these courses in their training portfolio. And they have to arrange somehow the recognition. During the project, it is planned to be 2 rounds. The first one is just to gain some experience and feedback, not only for the courses, but also for the trainers. And the second round, it is supposed to be self-supported, just to prove that they can attract enough people. And the first round, we will see that it has already been developed, and the second one is going to be during this year. This is the guide that I have already talked, and we will see some of the things that they say. I guess you have already seen this scheme. This is just to let you know that we developed the first Train the Trainers that took place last year. Then after the Train the Trainers, the first round at a national level, the courses at a national level took place. And then we have developed the second, and this is the third round of the Train the Trainers, because we expect to record this Train the Trainers. That is why it's being recorded, because the 4th and the 5th one will be online. And then it will take place at a national level, the second round, and the national courses that the attendees to the Train the Trainers develop. About the objectives, there are in the PROF TRAC training, there are multidisciplinary groups, so some of the knowledge for some of them, maybe they already know it, but for others, maybe there is a new knowledge. So you have to find the balance to this question between the specific and the general contents. And regarding the cross-cutting training, these are the necessary competencies for a profession. So as a starting point during the methodology, I know that yesterday you have been talking about it, we have identified the following cross-cutting skills: communication, information management. I won't read all of them. You have it on the skills mapping methodology and in the guide. And this is a basis. You can develop other ones if you consider that it is necessary. About the specific training, this level develops the profession-specific knowledge and the skills, so the training should be tailored, focusing on the identified skill gaps. Then it can be subdivided, but the main important thing is that you cover the gap between the needed skills and the current skills. As you know, the courses are aimed for architects, engineers, and building managers. This is the time frame of the pilots, and during the second round that will take place from March to August, you have to develop also your courses. This is for the training providers, but also for the attendees to the train the trainers. About the content, you have to develop the specific scope is the skills gaps by country, and the general scope is the whole nZEB knowledge. Let's say in skills, techniques, best practices, and so on. And how? We have called the attendees to the train the trainers ambassadors. So you are the ambassadors for your country, and you have to find the best trainers. You have to choose the format of the course, and you have to develop the content and structure it in order to cover the gaps. Where? Well, these are the countries already said before, and these are the partners of the project, but after the project duration, a rollout effect is expected to other European countries, so that's why you are here. And the target location is the European Union itself. We want to repeat the courses as much as possible in different countries. Regarding the target public and the prior knowledge, in the case of the PROF track, and the composition of the audience is complex: engineers, architects, building managers. So their collaboration is key. This is the focus of the courses. It's key to the efficient process of the nZEB design, construction, operation, and maintenance. So they can have a different level of work experiences, nZEB knowledge, cross-cutting skills, but their collaboration is key to these courses. So while designing the course, there are some aspects that maybe are new for some of the attendees, and some of the attendees already know them. So the factors you have to take into account, maybe their experience, location, education, their motivation, computer skills, hardware and software. For example, I remember for the Spanish courses that we have already developed, we asked them to provide us with a curriculum vitae, if I remember, in order to choose the attendees. How can we address the different profiles in the same course? In the guide we give some suggestions. These are suggestions. For example, representatives. For each target group we can choose one representative. In order to engage him, the course can be free for him, and he is the representative to, while the group works on their barriers, their drivers and their gaps, he can explain to the rest of the target group. Another option, if questionnaires, each target group elaborates a questionnaire in order to know each other's interest, and then a round of questions and answers take place. This way they know each other's interests. About the teamwork training, they work in groups, and for example, once they have identified the skill gaps, maybe some of them are common for all of them, but there are others that are specific of their profession. The group that, for example, has the knowledge of these gaps can explain it to the other groups, and they create a teamwork collaboration. Competition, it's, for example, you can suggest an exercise, and they can compete in groups to develop their solutions, and then they vote the best solution, and they can further work on the best solution. And the last option is a brainstorming about the skill maps. You can read it more in detail in the guide. What is expected from the trainers? According to the skill gaps, they have to elaborate the training material, and they have to adapt it according to the national situation as circumstances. I know that Olina yesterday explaining all the repository we have in the PROF TRAC platform. The content, the main important thing is that they have to cover the gaps. You have to gather the material, structure it, and make an overview of it. This is a suggested structure, but it depends on you. There can be facultative courses and compulsory courses. For the compulsory courses, for example, we encourage to develop the cross-cutting skills. And for the facultative courses, maybe we can depend on more specific knowledge. We can make thematic groups, but this will depend on you, and you have to evaluate which is the best for your format. About the training format, we encourage to have at least 30 participants to the courses. We will see later that some of the courses we developed had 30, another a little bit less, but this is what we encourage to have. And the goals must be clear in order to cover the gaps for each profession. But we have to monitor and evaluate the courses in order to have some feedback and to improve it. So not only to have the feedback from the professions that attend the courses, but also from the training providers. So you have to take into account that you will be asked about this kind of indicators during after the implementation of the courses. You will take care of it because you will be asked about these indicators. I don't read it because you have them in the presentations, in your USB, and in the guide. About the certification, on the PROF TRAC project we are working on a European common test. It is not developed, so at least you have a template where you can, it's Annex 3, where you can give an attendance certificate. Please use this template. These are the annexes of the guide. The first one is a questionnaire and that you have to provide to your attendees after the trainings to know their feedback. The template Annex 2 is the template to develop the content of the courses. I know that Laura has already given it to you, and we will work in the forthcoming session. And the third annex is the template for the certification. So the expected results from this template that Laura has shown is that you have to set the venue, the dates for the course, the content, the format, the duration, the multidisciplinary approach that you select for your course, the trainers or at least the profiles that are requested, how the courses will be financed, if there will be a recognition. You have to think about it during the working session. And now we are going to see the pilot experiences. First, the first Train the Trainers took place last year in February in Prague. There we explained the guide that we have already seen. And then the workshop started. Then they worked on the inventory skills mapping with the template that Jan provided and you have on your USB. And then by country, you have to elaborate a first draft of the program. It's Annex 2 and you have to elaborate on it. And then you will work on a transnational review. What you will do is you have to mix the countries. We will divide into 4 groups according to 4 thematics, content, management, and so on. And you will make a SWOT analysis. And finally, you will come back by country in order to, after the feedback of this SWOT analysis, you will have to refine the program you have developed at the beginning. And then the pilot experiences took place. This is the calendar where they have been developed during 2016. This is a summary of the training actions. You can see that most of them took place between 3, 4, 5 days. Some of them had webinars, lectures, workshops. So this first round was just to gain some experience. You see pictures from Italy, Croatia, the Netherlands, Spain. This is the first course that took place in Croatia, and the title was Interdisciplinary Approach and Cross-Disciplinary Teamwork for nZEB Design. As you can see, there were lectures, workshops, and discussion based on the workshop results. These are some of their indicators. There were 31 attendees plus 3 trainers. And there were architects, civil engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, and building managers. So they focused the 3 asked professions. And most of them had between 10 and 30 years of experience, but in average no experience with nZEB. This is a summary of the training action that took place in Italy. The title was Nearly Zero Energy Building Planning for Sustainable Development. It took place in 5 days with 3 frontal lessons, 1 webinar, 1 workshop. For example, there were 44 architects. In Spain, we call it How to Design nZEB. There were lectures, practical cases, and workshops. There were over 30 attendees, and there were architects and engineers and construction engineers. In the Netherlands, the multidisciplinary design of nZEB, there were, as you see, face-to-face education, lectures, cases in groups, presentation of results, and also webinars. Their approach is very interesting because at the beginning they did a test at internet. If you pass the test, then you could go to the face-to-face education, to the workshops. Otherwise, you have to attend some e-learning, and if you pass the test, then you can go to the face-to-face education, and in the end, you obtain your certificate. There were over 20 participants, consultants, contractors, building owners, manufacturers. And what are the overall conclusions and recommendations from this round of pilots? How to address the different profiles in the same course? Most of them use workshops to work together in practical cases and so on. About the target group, most of them involved the 3 professions. For example, this is some of the answers from the attendees in the questionnaires. In Croatia, in general, they are quite satisfied with the approach, and they appreciate the practical examples. For the Netherlands, for example, they think there should be stakeholders from the building process, like architects, engineers, but it was difficult for them. From Spain, it happened what we already said, that as not every participant has the same knowledge, the theoretical part was too long for some of them and too short for others. You have to find the balance for this. And some of the lessons learned is that study tours, like the one you did yesterday, are quite well appreciated between the attendees. Co-organizing the courses with other organizations allows us to reach target groups better. For example, in Spain, we organize between Valencia Institute of Building, that we are more focused on architects, ATECIR is more focused on engineers, so we could mix both target groups. It is recommended to do the courses in a time frame available to self-employed people, for example, evening or short half days. The background of the professionals is important, so it is recommended to start a short presentation of themselves like the ones you did yesterday during the courses. And the exchange of experiences may be complemented by activities. that bring together all target groups, where key promotional, organizational, and other issues can be discussed and further communicated. This is the most boring part where we have to monitor the activities. I will pass through it. You will provide with a template just to put the indicators we asked and we said before. This is an example that Croatia filled in quite properly. And just to take care about ethics, as you will be asking a lot of personal data to the attendees, you have to take this in mind so what type of data you ask the participant. Maybe you have to ask them if this is an example of the email that we asked during the train the trainers, that in case people don't want us to have their data, we can delete it. You will have to do the same for your courses. And we promote the women participation. It's difficult, but so remember, these are the months you have to develop your training. And remember that during the process of the training you will be asked and to save all these documentary proof. List of channels for dissemination, to take pictures during the courses, the list of attendees, the presentations, the certificates, about ethics, the gender. You will be asked about it for the report.